Welcome to the Canarian International Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Mossy, and I am an alcoholic.
And my name is Mick. I'm also alcoholic and also joint secretary.
Join me for a moment's silence to remember the still suffering alcoholic both inside and outside the room. And Jane is going to read the preamble for us.
Hello, my name is Jane. I'm an alcoholic. Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. AA has no dues or fees. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you.
A very warm welcome goes out to any newcomers or anyone returning to Alcoholics Anonymous. In this meeting, we celebrate AA birthdays. If you are celebrating a birthday, please message today's host, that's Mossy, in the chat, and we will celebrate before the general share part of the sharing.
I'm afraid that's it today. With all the difficulties we had, I want to welcome Timmy to share his experience, strength and hope with us. You've about 40, 45, 50 minutes, Tim, and nobody's going to stop you today. Take it away, my friend.
When you throw somebody out, you really throw them out. That's what I got to say. I'm proud of you. My name's Timmy K, and I'm an alcoholic, and I come here because I don't want to drink anymore. Thank you for the invite. I keep trying to dodge you guys. I went to one meeting next. This is my third meeting on here itself. I'm just glad this one's like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon instead of 3:30 a.m. like the beginners meeting was. But you know what? Might be talking to some of my long lost relatives. So as my sponsor used to say, serve or suffer. So this is a long timers meeting. So my sobriety date is 3/17/1989. It's St. Patty's Day. I have a sponsor. For the first 32 years of my sobriety, I called my sponsors every day. Because of COVID and me being old and retired, my sponsor and I have figured 3 times a week was more than enough for him. And so it works out fine. Try to get to a visual drive-by, see me once a week whenever possible at a great meeting not far from where he lives. So, the October 2nd reading in the 24-hour day book is a very special meaning to me because my father, whose sobriety date was 12/7/1964, had a 24-hour day book, and the price on it was $2. And he died 27 years sober. He was about 3 years sober when I was sober. So both my parents passed away when I was sober. I was able to be there with them. And, initially, if you had told me I'd want to be with somebody when they're dying, no, thank you. And today it's a great blessing. So basically, I grew up around Alcoholics Anonymous, grew up on the east side of Detroit, grew up outside of Grosse Pointe, Michigan, which is where all the auto magnates and all the rich people live. And then somehow we jumped the fence and just barely made it over into the other side of it. And I was like the poor little rich kid, just rich enough to be in there, but not rich enough to hang around with all the big dogs that have a lot of money on it itself. So, I hear a lot of leads, and you know what? I don't know if I just am comfortably okay with myself, but I didn't have a lot of the feelings that a lot of people have of not fitting in and all that other stuff. But I do recognize the disease when I see it. And, my grandfather, there were 5 brothers, went off to World War I, and one of them died as a flyer in France, and he took the pledge. And my father got sober 1964. I was 7 years old. The worst drinking story I have is he woke us up to give us some ice cream at 3 a.m. No real traumas. Can't remember much of his drinking, to be honest with you. But I'm a guy that watches, I'm not judging you by your intentions. I'm watching your actions and see where it goes. My father had two sons die during his lifetime in sobriety, and he did not have to drink through it. And I think that is something. So the one thing I would say to the newcomers out there is don't believe the big lie. And to me, the big lie is you can't have fun and stay sober at the same time. I usually sign off, if you're not having fun, fire yourself and hang around with some people that aren't walking around with tight shoes on. And I firmly believe that, and the preamble is so important, because they take 5 words to tell you what AA is. AA is a fellowship. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other. They may solve a common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement is desire to stop drinking. I hate to tell you, I may have to adjust my sobriety date because, I did not join the fellowship, and I relapsed at like 3 months, and I relapsed at like 6 months. And then finally, after my last day out, I went to a meeting and I was whining and complaining about, going back out again. And this poor guy volunteered to be my sponsor, and he gave me a business card and said, here, call me every day for the next 30 days. I didn't have a big book. Somebody had to give me that. I didn't know what a big book was. I thought, they walk around church with the big book walking down the aisle. No, it's the book Alcoholics Anonymous. I hang around the 3rd edition because that's what I grew up with. That's where all my markings and notes and annotations are. But people are still breaking into my house and putting new words in there that I've been reading this book for many years. And all of a sudden there's a word in there that I have to use the dictionary to see what these guys meant. Because, the 3 guys in the beginning, AA, were a doctor, a lawyer, and a stockbroker. Very smart people. And I found that I've cheated myself of what they were trying to tell me because words change over the years. And so, they gave me a big book and they said, Tim, read the white and black and don't read in between the lines. And I did that. But before I got to the AA meetings, I was working with my parents who, my dad stopped by my lake house and saw something that looked like something out of the Animal House from the day after, and strongly suggested that I move in back home because things looked a little crazy, which they were. In fact, there were more drunks per square foot on that lake than anywhere else. I find they congregate in deeper quantities on lakes around here in the United States. But anyway, so I moved home. And, they weren't saying anything. And my mother had a black belt in Al-Anon. My father had AA. And in fact, he was on the board of a treatment facility. And one day they said, instead of going to work, and by the way, you never want to put your landlord, your parents, and your boss all in the same basket. Because when they pull that out from underneath you, it's a fun little ride. It's like like the cartoons that like, wheat and boom. So here I am sitting up against the kitchen window, this big bay window, and they've got this guy coming to talk to me, and I don't know who he is, but I know who he is. And he came from the Sacred Heart Rehabilitation Center, which was one of the lowest bottom drunks centers for people who couldn't afford treatment and in Detroit. And, I would go there on Christmas Eve, and I'd see all these Skid Row bums, and they'd be around, and they had a T-shirt and underwear and a toothbrush for Christmas, and they were all excited about that. And then my father had me go down and lifeguard at the pool that they had when somebody donated a really nice school that had a pool in it. And so I was all around AA, but the funny part is I thought I knew a lot about alcoholism, yet here I am. And that's the thing to tell you, you know, if you're beating yourself over alcoholism, in my family, it's a family disease. It's in the DSM, and I've got cousins on both sides of the family that are in the program, bunch of cousins and everything that are all in the we could have our own little meeting if we wanted to on it itself. So, but the point being is the guy came up to me, and you know what? The interesting thing is my parents knew not to try and 12-step me. They brought somebody else in. And I remember him sitting there and talking to me and, okay, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. And like, okay, you know, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And I'm like, oh my God, don't you know how busy I am? I'm vice president of this corporation. I got a country club membership and I got a car, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, if you would have sent me to 90 bars in 90 days, I would have given you a hug, washed your car, and took your dog for a walk every day, you know, but God forbid that you sentence me to something that might actually save my life. So I did that for 90 days. And then all of a sudden, you know, not being part of the fellowship, that's saying the things that I think I wanted people to hear rather than saying the things I needed to hear from myself. So guy comes back and sit down, don't go to work. We got somebody come and talk to you. It's like, oh God, I've been through this one before. So he came back and he goes, you know, Tim, you're not drinking, but you're still an asshole. And I'm like, oh man, like, you know, it's kind of like get off the cross. We need the boards, you know, and what he was trying to tell me and what so many new co-groups don't understand is we had removed the alcohol from my system, but they couldn't tell that I had stopped drinking. I still was manifesting the alcoholic personality that caused an obsession. It's not that I wanted to drink, it's that I had to drink, you know. I could pass a lie detector test on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock swearing I wasn't going to drink, and then all of a sudden, you know, at 5 p.m. it's Miller time. What happened? Where did that go? You know, I mean, I was an athlete, I was, you know, a successful salesperson, all these different things. Where did the willpower go? And so finally the willpower went. The last time I went out, nobody knew. My parents were out of town. So that took care of my landlord and my boss and my parents. That was 3 good ones. And, you know, I got home that night. I don't think I heard anybody. I missed the first exit and just kind of going, wow, there's my exit. The next exit I wasn't getting off at because my friend, he had 3 DUIs at that intersection. I'm like, I ain't getting off of that one. And so I got off at the last exit and somehow made it home. I don't think I heard anybody during my drinking career. Because I was not the type of guy that liked to pass out, or I didn't like puking. I didn't like hangovers. I believed being an alcoholic and that in the family, I did better living through chemistry. So my alcoholism had a pot problem, but the guys in the program kind of showed me what that was all about. And so when I got home that night, all of a sudden, what was really weird was I looked in the bathroom mirror at myself and I didn't like what I saw. It was almost like me looking at me, and me looking at me in contempt. Me looking at me with contempt, not anybody else, not my boss, not my landlord, not any of that stuff. And that was my last day out. That was it. That's when I was done. So I decided to go to this meeting and you know, met my sponsor. And, you know, the interesting is that my first sponsor, the people that he did what he did, that he passed on from his sponsor, who passed on from his sponsor, when we did what he did, not only did I stay sober, but he's got a lot of grand sponsees that all have long-term sobriety. A couple of them just passed 30 years. It's hard to believe on it itself. So, you know, the scary part is about this disease is it doesn't care how much time you have. You know, I've been sober in 5 different decades. Whoopee. I've got 13,000 days. Who cares? what is it that I have today that's going to keep me sober and keep me happy? Because you see, here's the thing is, I'm back to this. I'm a show me guy, you know. You tell me to do this and I'll do it. And when it don't work, I'm going to be right up in your face and telling you this thing don't work. And I've been still waiting to say that to somebody somewhere along the way. Eventually, you know, I don't think it'll ever happen. But the point being, to me, is back to the big lie, is that I didn't know how to stay sober and have fun. And the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous showed me how to do that. And that's the key thing in my life today is, you know, why I sign off with the way that it is. Because if you're not having fun in Alcoholics Anonymous, there's something wrong. And as you go through, as I went through the 12 steps, this weird thing happened. The anal nerve and the optical nerve got uncrossed, and that crappy outlook on life, all of a sudden, life looked good. But I want to tell you, the first year, you know, I mean, eventually I had to find another job because my parents were tired of me, fired, you know. And you hear people say, well, I lost my job and I lost my wife and I lost my house. And they're like, no. Job's still there. House is where you left it. And the spouse knows where she's at. Thank you very much. You just, you know, you're trying to deny the reality of what's going on in your life and sugarcoat it. And the guys that I hung around with, they with love kindly told me the truth. And had they not, I probably would be dead today on it itself. So the interesting part is that nobody over the years has the same drinking pattern as I do, yet we all qualify as alcoholics. And how do we do that? Well, we notice when we go through the steps, there's certain things that we do. So, you know, I was going through the steps and I did 1, 2, and 3. Thought I did 3 pretty good. Got to step 4, and middle of step 4, all of a sudden, I broke out in hives like over 80% of my body. And in fact, the hives were so bad, I worked in a retail store. I was scaring the customers away. It wasn't Halloween. So they said, Tim, why don't you just take a couple days off? And what happened is my roommate laughed at me and said, you know, there's a men's meeting tonight, about an hour away from here, your sponsor goes to, you couldn't handle the honesty there. So, you know, you challenge a drunk, guess what? You know, you tell an alcoholic not to do something, I guarantee you, you know, they are going to do it. So when I give a newcomer my phone number, I say, whatever you do, don't call me, okay? Just don't call me. Don't call me every day. So I went there, and I tell you what, the honesty was incredible. It was a men's feedback meeting, and you gave them permission to tell you the truth as you saw it, and they did. And the incredible thing was there were some guys there that when I heard their stories and what they went through, where a guy would pull out his wallet and on it would say, brush your teeth, wash your face, put on your clothes, get ready to go to work, call your sponsor, and then take the bus to work. The guy had 8 years, and he didn't even look like he was brain damaged, and he had something I wanted, and that's the thing that happened. So, you know, they say when you get to a step and you're kind of having issues with it, go back to the step before it. So that's why I like the 3rd step so much, because the 3rd step is, you know, there's nothing in it for me. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do me as I will. Take away the bondage of self, and I better do thy will. You know, where's the, you know, the cash and prizes? There's nothing there. You know, may I do thy will always. So they took me back into this one room after, I think it was before a meeting, and a bunch of guys, we sat on the ground. I read the 3rd step from the 12 and 12. And then when it came time to say the prayer, we all got on our knees, said the 3rd step prayer. And then they all told me about their 3rd step story. And I'll tell you what, I wish I could duplicate that with other newcomers and stuff, because it was really cool. Because basically what they told me is, Tim, you went into your 4th step without God, and you scare the hell out of you, but you and God are okay with it. Because if God really wanted you done, you'd have been toast a long, long time ago. So eventually I got through the 4th step. And then I did the 5th step. And, you know, the funny part is I got to that spot where, you know, it's usually in the sexual inventory. Nobody wants to, you know, tell it to anybody. You want to tell it to a blind nun on a canoe in the Amazon, then you push her down the thing and you never see her again, you know. And I got to that spot that was causing me all these issues. And, you know, I have a caveat with this. So I was taking a medication that there was a 1% chance that that could happen. Hasn't happened since, but, you know, I've got to rationalize and justify that also as an alcoholic. But anyway, the spot that was causing me all the duress, I look over at my sponsor and he's yawning. And I'm like, dude, this gave me hives and, you know, almost killed me. And you're yawning, you know? And that's the thing I have to remember is that my 4th step and 5th step damn near killed me. You know, it wasn't until I was able to write it down, claim it, look at it, own it, and give it back to God. And then all of a sudden, what happens? What that terrible thing is now my experience, strength, and hope. That there's some people that I'll tell what's going on and what was in my inventory that it might help them. I don't broadcast it all over the world or whatever, but I do and have told some people so that it might make them, you know, feel better, you know, help them understand, oh, wow, you went through that too. And that's what AA is about. You know, this is my 2nd meeting today. I went to a men's meeting in California, and everybody was telling on themselves. And that's the thing about AA is, you know, when you tell on yourself, all of a sudden somebody else hears that and goes, wow, I'm going through that too. There were four guys that said, hey, I'm dealing with the exact same issue. And we all listened to what everybody said. The actual best message was, you know, if you're right, shut up and don't poke the bear. So that's great. And we used to say to the, you know, guys that were married is don't terrorize and give her your paycheck, you know, to a little while later. And so anyway, I got through the 5th step, did 6th step, 7th step. And I really think this is the part where we actually, we kind of skimp on. We don't really take that book. Some guys will take the book off the shelf just to say they're following the instructions, you know. But in the 6th step, I noticed something with somebody of something that I had made amends to, and I kind of glossed over it. And then all of a sudden, I saw another person in the same situation, and I saw the pain and the hurt and the sorrow that I caused. And at that point, I went, oh, wow, I can't go back and make another amends because I'm not going to let my shadow grace their door. Their life is going on and they're doing well, and I'm leaving that alone. But that amends that I made, I really didn't give it 100% that I thought now that I look back and see that I did. So, you know, the 7th step is a great step. You know, if you, I had a sponsor, his name was Big Book Bill, and this guy people would quote, well, you know, in the big books, they'd say, well, which edition? And they meant 1, 2, and 3, okay, not just 1. And the person would look over and go, whoa. But the thing is this is a textbook, and I need to study it. Why? Because I might be somewhere where I don't know what's going on, and if I don't have this at my grasp, I could be in trouble. I was studying to be a lifeguard, and on the Great Lakes, they teach you about swimming in water. And sometimes when you come up to somebody, you have to swim behind them, and if they keep trying to grab at you, you have to let them go down. And that's almost kind of like an Al-Anon sequence to that, you know? You have to let them go down until they quit struggling. And so what happens is after they go down and they quit struggling, with 2 fingers, you can put that on their hand, their chin, and tow them to safety. So I'm studying this book, and I'm water skiing at 30 miles an hour, and I can't translate that to kilometers, but it's pretty fast. And I hit a pile of seaweed and went head first into it. And this is before I thought learning and knowing the big book was good, because as I hit that patch of seaweed, my mind's going, seaweed, page seaweed. Where's seaweed at? Oh, don't struggle. Let your buoyancy cover you to the top and move very slowly and do everything, and you'll live. And I did. So that taught me on very well that I need to know these things and to do them. So then, the seventh step, if you circle humility or derivations of humility in the 12 and 12, it's like 40 times. It's everywhere. And the thing is that the definitions of humility is being able to see myself as God and others see me. Now, some days that's a really good thing. Other days, when His Majesty the baby shows up, it's not a good thing. I'm allowed 2 jerks on the road every day. After the second jerk, I have to look in the mirror, and there's a little sticker that I have. It says, "It's not them, it's me." So, a little spot inventory, see what's really going on. What's really bothering you? So then I finally get to the 8 steps, and I made this list, and there's a bunch of women that my sponsor says, no, you just leave them alone. You just want to take another lap around the track with them or something like that. That's not good. So got through all my amends pretty well. And that's my favorite. My friend, okay, thank you. Phone call. No, didn't want to plan on it. You want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans for the day. I've got a mug that says that. So anyway, the 8th step, there was one that I made that my sponsors said, okay, this is going to be a written amends. So I wrote this letter down, and I gave it to 3 different people 3 different times. And they all took my favorite line out. It was like, oh, this was the polite screw you that I had in there that I wasn't able to see. So I've learned that if I'm going to be doing stuff like that, especially when it was an important one, that I needed to really make sure that I didn't have to, they say, I never liked you, and I say, screw you, and I'm back to the first step again. So they told me, Tim, if they say you're ugly and your mother dresses you funny, you say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm just wanting to make my amends, and I'm not living the way I used to, and I wish you well, and away you go. So now that allows me to actually, look the world in the eyes. And also after the 9th step is where the position of neutrality comes out. And that's one of the best gifts of the whole program, is that I hang around with a lot of people that drink. My girlfriend's family, they drink. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. And that's why is because I attend meetings and I work with others and I try to do the things that I need to do. But there is one part about the 9th step that I think is so important, is I've heard many people in early sobriety go from 1, 3 to 9, and it goes terribly bad. And the reason it does, and it's in the doctor's opinion, the doctor opinion says, listen, this guy came to me and I knew him, I treated him, and I haven't seen him for a year, but I recognize the figures, but I don't know who this guy is. So when you go to make your amends with people, all of a sudden you're there and they look and they don't see the old Tim. Hopefully they see the new Tim. Now they're willing to give the new Tim a little slack and a little mercy instead of justice. But the old Tim, they probably would have told them to get lost. Either way the amends goes, as long as I'm trying to do it the best way I can, it works. But there's a funny part is in the 8 steps is made direct amends, became willing, So there are a couple people that all of a sudden I was like, there's a business guy that I hadn't seen. I drove by his house. I go, I wonder where he's at. Well, God's got a sense of humor. The very next day in the grocery store, where my sponsor worked in the vegetable department. There he is standing right there. And I'm like, oh. So I went up and I made my amends, and he's like, he didn't even remember me. And this is important. He did not remember me, but I remembered him. And it's the way that I lived will cause the guilt, the remorse, and the shame. It's not that I want to drink, it's I got to drink. So he was funny. He goes, yeah, he had a little chat, and that was fine. And then there were two other people that I made amends in that vegetable department, And then I moved away down to Cincinnati. And so I was coming back in town one day, and I'm like, God, I'm not going to the vegetable department today. I think I'm just going to have the regular tour of the city around here today. And then my last time up there in the city was like, okay, God, if I got somebody here to make amends to, I'm going into the vegetable department. So went into the vegetable department, walked in the door, looked over, it's now a bakery. So I figured, you know what, God's way of telling me, Tim, you're done with the vegetable department and the amends. But there's one amends that actually I felt I had to make, didn't really want to make. And in fact, it was somebody that I almost, whether I should have decked them or not. Okay. So literally, I'm going to Easter Mass one time because I had, they call it a vigil, which is the afternoon evening Mass. And it's long as the day is long. It just goes on and on and on. So I go in and I look, they had the candle outside and they were lighting it, and the church inside was dark. And I find the only seat that's open, and guess what happens? There he is, sitting right there in front of me. And when the lights go on, he's like, woo. And I'm going, woo. And it just really spoils Easter Vigil when you're rolling around on the floor, decking each other and chairs and knocking people over. So, there's a point in the service where you reach your hand out and you wish them peace. And I did. And I said, I wish you well. And then I went out into the hallway and I waited for him and I made my amends. And, he said he went through AA, and that's probably the only time ever anybody will tell me they went through AA. And I said, well, I'm glad. I hope you're doing well, and I wish you well, and went on my way. So I don't know how much time I got left. Where we're at, guys? Anybody?
You're all right. You're all right.
Okay. Just shout out how much I got, and we'll go from there. So
another 5 or 10 minutes, whatever suits you.
Okay. All right. Now, hopefully, I'm done talking before you're done listening. So the amends process is, it works, but I have to not be the same person that I used to be. Not be the guy if you're not drinking, but you're still an asshole. And see, the first 2 times that I fooled around with this program, I was doing it for everybody but for myself. And, if you're trying to stay sober for anybody for yourself, you're in trouble. And I got to tell you something. If you told me that I'd be talking at an old timers meeting with closing in on 36 years, I'd have laughed at you. I just wanted to get some people off my back and calm my life down a little bit. But the thing that's so interesting is for me is that I look at the people that have gone out and done research and development, and I listen to see if they say anything's any better or not. And it's not. Nobody's ever said it's better. In fact, if you ever seen the old Cowboys and Indians movie, there's always a guy out front with a flag, and he's got no gun, and he's full gallop. That would be me. If I heard somebody say it was great, I had a great time, come on, let's have one. It's never happened. It's never happened. So the thing that's important for me is to the newcomers is to say, you can't see what I have, okay? I can't give you my sobriety. You have to grow into it. And as you continue to grow into it, your life will get better despite yourself. My life is full. You know what the problem is? My life is so full that I have to carve out time in my life to make sure I go to meetings so I can stay sober. But the thing about having fun is one Saturday night, we went out to a restaurant and we had a room full of 10 people at a table having coffee. And we were laughing so hard, like all the drunks were getting up and moving away from us. And they were like, well, looks like they got drinking coffee. They must have been cut off already. And they were right. They were just off by a couple years on it itself. So you get to the 10th step, and that's continue to take their personal inventory, and when they're wrong, promptly tell them. Had to learn to adjust that one again. And then the 11th step was sought through prayer and medication to improve my conscious contact with God and give him the okay to do whatever I wanted to do. And those working the steps that way, they never seemed to work out very well. So I went back to the original writing of it and did it. And what's great about an inventory is the inventory can tell you so many different things. Where am I and where do I want to go? I don't like this location. I like the Serenity location that I had over there. What do I got to do, and what can I do to get it? And this is the only disease that gives you friends, gives you fellowship. I got guys tuning in from a couple parts of the country today. The drinking people that I drank with, I've never heard from them. 37 years ago, we drank. We solved the world's problems. We solved the wall fell down in Germany because of us, because we talked about it and then solved all those problems. But none of us ever called me up and said, Tim, how you doing? And what we had was a false fellowship. And the fellowship that we had, it fell apart. But the people that I have now, they'll call me up, they'll text me, they'll do all types of stuff. And all they wanted to do was to help me stay sober. And so finally we get to why I'm here today is a 12 step. The 12 steps are all past tense, which means we did these and we got these results. If you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. And then I have a buddy named Neil, and his sponsor says the result was Neil until we let go absolutely. And he was a great guy. So the thing I would say to you is the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous is a wonderful fellowship. It's given me more than I could ever imagine. And there's a game show that's called Deal or No Deal, and you bargain for this briefcase. And I look in my briefcase, and I see the deal that I made, and I made a great deal. And life will get better despite yourself. And if you're not having fun, fire yourself and hang around some people that are having fun. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Timmy. That was an excellent share. I really enjoyed it. And we're not a glum lot here in this group. No matter what happens, we seem to be able to smile through it. And, it's special to me when I hear people talking of the year of 89. You're another one, the class of 89 to me. And that's my sobriety as well, the class of 89. It's just amazing, the life that I have today. I'm out in Galway at the convention, and my daughter was with me, 10 months sober. And she was doing service this morning. I'm doing service tomorrow. It's just an amazing thing. I love what this fellowship can do for the family, what it can do for me. And I'll be forever grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous and all the old timers that helped me. So again, I thank you, Timmy, for your time, and sorry for all the hassle earlier on, but you worked your way through it.
Well, I had a screen behind me, and I will just tell you, there was one screen that had people that had masks on, and they were from Dayton, Michigan, and they were doing a press interview, and they wore masks on because to protect the anonymity of the level of press, radio, and films. And then I had the phone behind me was where Bill Wilson, a picture of it from the Mayflower Hotel. And then I had Dr. Bob's grave was on the one side also on it itself. I can send you a slide of it if you want. Yeah. But if you ever be able to jump the pond and go to the international convention in Akron, and the last one of the top pictures was "Welcome Home," it's Dr. Bob's house. Just hundreds of people crowding in and out of the house and everything. It's really something to see. People walk around like it's the Olympics with the flags and all that stuff. It's just far more than you can ever imagine. So keep hanging around there. You know, life will get better despite yourself.
Thanks, Timmy. And I'm going to be in Dr. Bob's house on the 12th of July next year to celebrate my anniversary. At that, we'll hand it over to the old dinosaur himself.
Calls me some good names, don't he? Eh? My name's Mick, and I am an alcoholic. By the grace of God, I don't need to take a drink. Thank you, Tim. What I liked a lot, love to share, and a lot of it, what you were saying. And as they say, you know, it's not important how long I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's important what I do today. And that's how I look at it today. I try to live in today, you know. And when I came in, I was with a gang of people on Thursday, and we were talking about 70 years ago. I was 9, and 70 years ago. And, you know, and I said to them, what did we do yesterday? And not one of them knew what they'd done yesterday, yet they could remember us 70 years ago. And I was in trouble then with the police, you know. And, you know, and I hear people say, oh, I had a traumatic childhood. My mother had a traumatic parenthood with me, you know. So, but it doesn't matter. I'm here because, you know, I'm a drunk and I need you people, you know, and to keep me well today.
I thank all the co-hosts and our timer. Not that you've done a great job or anything, Kathy or Catherine.
Thank you.
And the other co-hosts. And Timmy, thanks a million for joining us today. You've done a great job. And that's it, folks. Our readers was
a preamble, Jane, Time, Catherine, and the promises will be said by Nadia.
Nadia.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let Nadia do the promises then, shall we?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Nadia and I'm an alcoholic. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Thank you for letting me do service.
Thank you, Nadia.
Who you see here?
What you hear here?
When you leave here,
let it stay here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Keep me sober today.
Thank you. And Timmy, will you lead us out with the serenity prayer?
Sure. Want to apologize for my Hollywood glasses, but they adjust in the sunlight. So, God, grant us the serenity, accept the things cannot change, to change the things we can, different.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Keep coming back. It gets better. Spot yourself.
Thank you, Timmy.